All right, here with Jack Cleland, my good friend. Thank you for joining us and sitting here to talk about all things Charleston, and particularly downtown Charleston, and even more importantly, District 8, otherwise known around these parts as District Great. And thank you for making it that way. Just by way of background, Jack has been a fearless leader of the Charlestowne Neighborhood Association for a number of years now and has held lots of positions, including the president. So let's sort of start there and talk a little bit about what's happening downtown. And I think what's on my mind first and foremost is the low battery seawall and our challenges with water management. So you live on the western edge of the peninsula. Tell us what you see and sort of what you think the future looks like as we address that challenge.
So I kind of think of it as there's short-term measures we can take to help with the water, and midterm and long-term. And what I really want to thank you for is the progress we've already made on the short term, because the midterm and the long term, that's not here yet. But and I think everyone on the peninsula has had issues with water, but they really all surfaced and bubbled and boiled over after that flood in December of 23, because the city sort of gave the citizens no warning, and the garages weren't open, and the water kept coming up, and we had guys in trucks doing nothing but joyriding down the streets. And that in and of itself was what damaged a lot of homes. A lot of homes would have been fine if it hadn't been from the wake from these joyriding trucks. So, as part of the Charlestowne Neighborhood Association, and just as a friend, I raised these with you, and I think you ran with them with the city, and an amazing number of things have happened since that December 23 storm.
And, there's so many things that kind of came to a head during that time. I mean, it was a storm of some epic proportions. We were not prepared for it to be that way. And I think translating the lessons we learned into action plans has been some of the challenges, but really some of the really great accomplishments I think we made in that short term. I know that you had lost some cars, just simple things like opening garages, making sure we shut down streets. And for those who decide to come in when the storm is over, but the water stays behind and joyride through our streets, there's now consequence for that. And that's actually, when it comes to livability day in and day out, been a big deal.
Yeah, and all of that I agree with, and we've seen it actually help us in the storm since. I think the communication from the city has been much better. Not only they're putting the barricades out, they have them out already, right? They're in place already.
Absolutely.
So, and they're doing the mobile pumps. They're setting those up, and we've seen the effects in the storm since, and it's been very helpful. So all those short-term measures that you were able to get done with the city's help.
One of the things, particularly in the short term, that you talked about that's been both challenging but fascinating has been sort of trying to figure out water patterns when we have high tides and we have rainstorms, and all that water is collected in a system that was built in 1849, and just trying to figure it all out. And you mentioned, placing pumps strategically around the peninsula. That has really gone a long way to not only giving us some short-term relief, but helping us plan medium and long term for the future on actually how we do it on a larger scale. And we certainly couldn't do it without the support of people who every day are out there living it, but also thinking about it and reporting back to us. So at the association, at Charlestowne Neighborhood Association, y'all have been really involved and really held forums day in and day out, sort of to help educate us. And that's been a big part of it.
And I think we're glad that someone's willing to listen, able to take that ball and run with it. And just one other thing that occurs to me with the short term and really came out of that December 11 storm is what I call our curfew. I know you have a different word, but that's really been valued by the community, by our association, that, we don't have people out there who don't need to be out there.
When we see the storms coming and we know it's going to flood, there's no reason for people to be coming in from off the peninsula, driving across the bridges just to see what's going on, right? I mean, if you've got to get to the hospital, you have a loved one who's in need, or you live here, one thing, but I think shutting down the peninsula when it's appropriate is a good thing, which goes back to a little bit of public safety, right? I mean, a big part, if not the biggest part of what we do here in the city is to make sure you're safe, not just in theory, but in practice. You have been very involved in the public safety side of the coin. So let's talk a little bit about public safety, how we're doing. Again, some of the opportunities we have to maybe bolster where we are.
Well, the public safety, one of the things that you responded to is we were concerned about bicycles on the low battery wall. One, running into pedestrians, and two, there is no guardrail along that low battery wall. And I just see, an 8-year-old kid on a bike and on a battery like that. I'm worried. It's not my kid. So you've gotten the signs put up, taken the measures, and I don't see them up there nearly as much, but there's maybe more we can do on the enforcement side. And I think the other part of public safety is the crime. And I think a lot of that is communication to people about where the risks are and following up when issues are raised with the police.
Sure. And for those who live in our favorite district, District 8, District Great, we're a small community, but we have some big city challenges, right? I mean, we in District 8 on the peninsula are about 7,500 people total. South of Broad Street is 2,800 people. But on any given day or in a year, we have 8.5 million visitors a year, which, if you do the math, doubles the population of the peninsula every day. So making sure that everyone understands sort of how we police that, how we manage it from the lens of a resident has been something that's been on both of our minds, I think, from the get-go.
I think that feeds into the whole tourism management issue as well, right? Exactly what you're citing, because a lot of the kind of petty crime or trespassing type issues that we get in the community with all the tourists is related to the tourism. And I think, again, you've been helpful in not just the city promoting tourism, but managing tourism.
Right. Once people get here, it's time to make sure that, I always say one of my favorite sayings is no one gets any smarter the further they get from home. And so just trying to make sure that we let people know what is a reasonable expectation for people visiting. And really it's, please don't do here what you wouldn't do there. I think for the Charlestowne Neighborhood Association in particular, who's really at the center, the epicenter of how tourism affects us. The voices back from leadership there, particularly when you were there, have been really helpful to us in identifying some of those sort of touch points that we can improve on.
And I don't know if you want to go back to the water, but I'll just talk a little bit about the long term.
Absolutely.
And I think it's been an important part of the community for ever since it must be 10 years ago now, the whole Army Corps Engineer project sort of launched.
It seems like it was probably about 7 or 8 years ago, but it's been a while.
So what I've always thought is we need that perimeter protection. And I think your concern with where we were headed at one point was that the Army Corps engineer proposed a big gray wall, and that the city may not be able to control how that ultimately looked like. And I think our association, we're all for the perimeter protection, but we totally agreed with you that it's got to be something that fits within the character of the city, and ideally keeps the federal funding. And I think what you and the city are doing now is trying to move down a path that will get us there.
And I have to thank you for giving me that platform to be able to sort of articulate just what you've said, that it really is important for us to protect the perimeter of the peninsula in a way that is consistent with the challenges that we have and the way in which we live. And, there was a kind of a monochromatic view of that with just building a 12-foot high plus or minus wall around the peninsula on land. That just never, to me, seemed to be the right solution to the challenges we've got. And we've come a long way, and I have to thank you for that. From when we started to where we are today, now driving the conversation with the Army Corps rather than the Army Corps driving the conversation at us. So that's been, so far, I think, very promising and progress, and really a win for the city of Charleston, and more to come. And I look forward to sort of being in the middle and center of that as we unfold what the future looks like when it comes to water management for next 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 years, right? And I think the low battery seawall is a part of that too.
Yeah, no, the low battery seawall has now become, a piece of the peninsula and a piece of the Charlestowne neighborhood, and one that's very welcomed, not just for its purpose of stopping the water, but for its attractive contribution to the neighborhood.
Right. I mean, as we learned from the Dutch, nothing that's only single-purposed, right? That is there for a number of purposes. One is to keep the land where it belongs and keep the water out. Secondly is to allow for a quality of life that's enhanced. So now with the new pedestrian walkway, the benches, you can walk, fish, recreate. It's really been great. And most importantly, it stands as a model and an example of what we now can do going forward, and show the Army Corps and show the people in the United States of America how Charleston does it the right way, which the low battery is emblematic of that. And the whole idea is to extend it along the western edge of the peninsula. And if we get there, then your job will have been done, my job will have been done, and we can hand off Charleston and make it a better place today and then than it was. So that's the opportunity, that's the challenge, and couldn't do it without you.
And just another part of living with water is getting over the river. And as part of that, thank you for a decades-long battle to get that pedestrian bridge. And I think that's going to be a wonderful addition to the peninsula, to West Ashley, to the culture, to the exercise level of our community. It's just going to be fantastic.
And connecting it. So we're now at Seekings 5.0, but when we were Seekings 1.0, one of the things that we promoted was accelerate the construction of the West Ashley Bike Ped Bridge. Well, now we know what, in government terms, accelerate means. It's 15 years, but we're there. It's coming out of the water. It's there, and as you pointed out, a great community amenity. So for all of the things that are happening, particularly around water management, thank you for all your support, for being part of it. And I think we can look back some not too many years in the future and say that the work we did really contributed to making Charleston a better, safer, more livable place. So thank you.
Mike, you're thanking me, and I really think I thank you, the members of the Neighborhood Association. Thank you for all you've done. As I've said, with so many of these issues, we raise them with you, and you get stuff done with the city. And I know as well, you're leading with the city council for, as you say, your 5th term now.
Right.
And that experience just is so valuable to us, and I think to the city that you bring. And as well, you've got your other leadership positions that help us when we're dealing with. So the one I'm familiar with is your leadership of CARTA, because there's a lot of issues that do come up that relate to that. But maybe you can tell me the others.
Well, I mean, it's been really an honor to represent District 8, to be a part of the city, and then to have gotten myself the opportunity to be a member of CARTA and be the chairman of CARTA, which has been really an incredible experience. When I first got elected to city council, I was kind of banished to CARTA because it wasn't necessarily a popular victory. And we've come a long way in 15 years. We went from losing $3 million a month to now operating not at a deficit, and we're about to build the first ever large-scale transit project in the history, not just of this region, but of South Carolina, Low Country Rapid Transit, and all of the things that means for this community: accessibility to getting around, transit-oriented development. That's been a real joy, and it's sort of in combination with that, being on a tri-county group called the BCD-COG, Berkeley, Charleston, Dorchester County of Governments, which also thinks about growth and development. It's been an honor, and